The memory of New Shanghai burned behind Captain Elena Rodriguez's eyes, a graveyard of twisted metal and radioactive dust where 12 million souls had been erased in a single horrifying Zarkov strike. Her left hand, now a sophisticated quantum reactive prosthetic, twitched involuntarily as she remembered the moment everything changed. 37 minutes. That's how long it had taken the Zarkov fleet to reduce humanity's most advanced outer colony to less than memory. 37 minutes that had transformed her from a rising star in the United Human Defense Force to the commander of humanity's final, most desperate technological marvel. The UHS Indomitable wasn't just a warship. It was a quantum miracle, a technological Hail Mary that represented humanity's last, most audacious hope. Constructed in the deep caverns beneath the Andes, where massive quantum forges worked in near-silent precision, the ship represented generations of human scientific desperation and innovation. Quantum stability at 98.7%. Lieutenant Camille Chen reported from the system's integration station, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. Nano-adaptive hull is showing full responsiveness. We're ready for quantum translation. Elena nodded, her augmented eye, a marvel of human medical and computational engineering, scanning multiple data streams simultaneously. The prosthetic replaced the eye she'd lost during the New Shanghai incident, a constant reminder of what they were fighting for. It did more than see. It analyzed, predicted, and processed information faster than any standard human sensory system. Around her, the bridge crew moved with a synchronicity that bordered on the supernatural. Each member was a carefully selected hybrid of human potential, enhanced, trained, and prepared for a mission that conventional military wisdom deemed impossible. They weren't just soldiers. They were the culmination of humanity's most ambitious genetic and technological enhancement programs. The ship's quantum core hummed beneath their feet, a sound that was more felt than heard. It was a living heartbeat of computational power that defied everything the Zarkov believed was possible. Adaptive nanomaterials that could reconfigure themselves instantaneously. Quantum computing systems that could predict and counter threats before they even manifested. Computational abilities that made the Zarkov's most advanced systems look like prehistoric calculators. Final system check complete, Commander Sarah Alvarez announced, her voice steady despite the weight of their mission. All quantum stabilization protocols are green. We are prepared for quantum translation into Zarkov primary control zone. Elena's lips curled into the briefest of smiles. The Zarkov had spent 1,000 years believing themselves the undisputed masters of galactic warfare. They had crushed civilization after civilization, reducing entire species to nothing more than footnotes in their expansive historical archives. They had never encountered humanity. The Indomitable represented more than a weapon. It was a statement, a declaration that humanity would not go quietly into extinction. That for every colony burned, for every world destroyed, they would respond with something the Zarkov could never understand. Unbreakable, adaptive, relentless innovation. Initiate quantum translation sequence, Elena commanded, her voice cutting through the charged atmosphere of the bridge. The universe around them began to shift. Grand Admiral Kixlar of the Zarkov Imperium stared at the holographic display with mounting disbelief. The quantum disruption had begun milliseconds after the human vessel's translation into their primary control zone, a region of space that had remained inviolate for over 3 centuries. Impossible, he muttered, mandibles clicking with a mixture of confusion and rising panic. The Zarkov detection grid was the most sophisticated tracking system ever conceived. Developed over millennia, it could detect the most minute quantum signature from light years away. Microscopic variations in space-time, the faintest whisper of electromagnetic radiation, the subtlest gravitational disturbance. Nothing escaped its notice. Yet the human vessel had done exactly that. In the command centers of 1,000 warships, seasoned officers watched their screens with growing horror. Navigation systems flickered. Tracking algorithms collapsed. Where the Indomitable should have been a momentary blip, a microscopic anomaly, it became a ghost, a phantom that danced between quantum states, rendering every tracking system useless. Lieutenant Camille Chen watched the Zarkov systems unravel with clinical precision. Quantum interference pattern is stabilizing, he reported to Captain Rodriguez. Their detection algorithms are running recursive loops. They can't establish a consistent measurement of our position. The bridge of the Indomitable hummed with a predatory silence. Each crew member understood the delicate dance they were performing, a technological waltz that would determine the fate of their entire species. On the primary Zarkov command station, Junior Communications Specialist Vranak felt the first tendrils of true fear. His species had conquered countless civilizations, reduced entire planetary networks to ash. They had technological superiority that made resistance seem laughable. But this was different. The human vessel wasn't just avoiding detection, it was playing with their systems. Quantum entanglement protocols that should have been impossible began to propagate through the Zarkov network. Information packets appeared and disappeared, carrying data that simultaneously existed and did not exist. It was as if the very fabric of computational reality was being rewritten before their eyes. Quantum interference increasing. Chen continued, his fingers dancing across interfaces that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. We're not just avoiding their systems, we're deconstructing them. Captain Rodriguez watched the tactical display with a calm that bordered on the supernatural. Each movement of the Indomitable was a calculated risk, a quantum probability wave that collapsed only when most advantageous. The ship wasn't moving through space so much as it was manipulating the very concept of spatial positioning. Grand Admiral Kexler's communication officer stammered a report that made no sense. Sir, the vessel. It's everywhere and nowhere. Our tracking systems are reporting multiple simultaneous positions that are mathematically incompatible. The Zarkov had a word for this moment, an ancient term from their earliest technological evolution that spoke of a fundamental breakdown of understanding. Trigzac, the moment when known reality fails, when the universe itself seems to laugh at accumulated knowledge. This was Trigzac. The human vessel continued its impossible dance, a quantum phantom that was rewriting the very laws of computational warfare. And they were just getting started. The first wave of Zarkov interceptors struck like a hammer of impossible technology. Each vessel represented the pinnacle of a 1,000-year military evolution, ships that had reduced entire civilizations to cosmic dust in minutes. Their quantum phase disruptors could slice through planetary shields. Their adaptive armor could withstand direct antimatter bombardment. They never stood a chance. Incoming quantum phase attack, Lieutenant Chen called out, his voice unnervingly calm. Defensive protocols initializing. The Indomitable's hull shimmered, not with fear, but with anticipation. Nano-adaptive materials began their impossible dance, molecular structures rearranging faster than light could travel. Where traditional armor would buckle, this ship's skin became a living, thinking defense system. The first quantum phase burst hit like a supernova. Any other vessel would have been vaporized instantly. The Indomitable absorbed the energy, analyzed it, and began to transform. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched the tactical display with surgical precision. Each incoming weapon became a lesson, each attack a data point to be understood and subverted. The ship wasn't just defending, it was learning, evolving, turning the Zarkov's most advanced weapons into nothing more than expensive light shows. Energy redirection at 97% efficiency, Chen reported. Weapon signatures are being completely neutralized and converted. The space around the Indomitable became a canvas of impossible physics. Zarkov energy weapons that should have obliterated entire star systems found themselves redirected, transformed, consumed. It was less a battle and more a horrifying ballet of technological destruction. Grand Admiral Kexler watched in mounting terror as his most advanced squadron began to disintegrate, not through conventional destruction, but through a process that defied every known law of combat and physics. One by one, Zarkov interceptors simply came apart. Not exploded, not destroyed. Deconstructed at the molecular level, their most advanced systems turning against themselves with surgical precision. Quantum entanglement became quantum betrayal. "This is impossible," a Zarkov squadron leader transmitted, his communication protocols already being dissected and understood by the Indomitable's quantum AI. "No vessel can." The transmission cut off mid-sentence. On the bridge, Commander Sarah Alvarez allowed herself the briefest of smiles. "Adaptive response protocols are exceeding all projected parameters," she said. "The ship is now processing threat matrices faster than the Zarkov can generate them." It wasn't just a battle. It was a complete deconstruction of an entire species' understanding of warfare. The vacuum of space became a light show of spectacular destruction. Blue-white energy tendrils danced between disintegrating alien vessels. Quantum disruption waves spread like living things, breaking down the most advanced technology, as if it were nothing more than wet paper. Captain Rodriguez understood something the Zarkov had never comprehended. War was not about destruction. It was about adaptation, understanding, evolution. "Quantum tracking of remaining squadron," she commanded. "Prepare comprehensive system analysis." Lieutenant Chen's fingers danced across interfaces that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. "All enemy vessels now functioning as passive data collection nodes. We're extracting their entire technological infrastructure." The first engagement lasted 17 minutes. 17 minutes that would be studied for generations. 17 minutes that would change the course of galactic history. 17 minutes that proved humanity was no longer just another species to be conquered. The Zarkov had awakened something they could never understand, and they were about to learn the true meaning of technological warfare. Information warfare reached a level of complexity that defied human comprehension, let alone alien understanding. Deep within the Zarkov central communication matrix, digital fortresses that had stood inviolate for centuries began to crumble. It wasn't an invasion. It was a complete reimagining of computational existence. The Indomitable's quantum AI worked with a precision that bordered on the miraculous. Each communication channel became a living ecosystem, each encrypted protocol a playground of impossible mathematics. Firewalls that had taken millennia to develop dissolved like morning mist, their most secure channels becoming transparent as glass. Quantum infiltration at maximum efficiency, Lieutenant Camille Chen reported, his augmented neural interface pulsing with streams of data that would have driven a standard human mind to madness. "We're not just breaking their systems. We're rewriting the fundamental language of their computational infrastructure." Captain Elena Rodriguez watched the holographic displays with a calm that seemed almost supernatural. Entire Zarkov fleet command structures were collapsing from within, their most carefully guarded secrets laid bare in milliseconds. On the primary Zarkov communication hub, senior encryption specialist Axrel felt something close to terror. The human vessel wasn't just accessing their systems, it was understanding them at a level that suggested something beyond mere technological superiority. It was as if the ship was reading the very DNA of their computational existence. Strategic plans materialized. Military deployments became transparent. The most deeply encrypted communication channels transformed into open books, their secrets flowing like water. "Adaptive decryption is showing exponential growth," Chen continued. "We're now processing their communication protocols faster than they can generate new encryption methods. It's like we're learning their language in real time." The quantum AI aboard the Indomitable was doing something unprecedented. It wasn't just breaking codes. It was understanding the fundamental logic behind them, predicting future encryption methods before they were even conceived. Ansarel watched in horror as classified communications began to broadcast themselves. Entire military strategies, secret weapon designs, diplomatic negotiations, everything became exposed. The ship was conducting a symphony of information, and the Zarkov were nothing more than unwilling instruments. Complete systemic breakdown in Sector 7. Commander Sarah Alvarez announced. Their entire communication infrastructure is becoming transparent. It wasn't just a battle anymore. This was a complete deconstruction of an entire civilization's technological paradigm. The Zarkov had spent 1,000 years believing themselves the uncontested masters of information warfare. They had crushed civilizations by knowing everything, controlling every piece of information. Now, they were experiencing true vulnerability. Captain Rodriguez understood the deeper strategy. This wasn't about military conquest. This was about demonstrating a fundamental truth. Technology was not about possession. It was about understanding. Begin comprehensive data analysis, she commanded. Prepare communication protocols for subjugated species. The quantum AI began to work its impossible magic, not as a conqueror, not as a destroyer, but as a liberator of information. Entire communication networks transformed. Classified military channels became transparent. Centuries of controlled information began to unravel. The Zarkov were about to learn that true power wasn't about keeping secrets. It was about sharing knowledge. And humanity was about to teach them that lesson. Words spread faster than light, faster than communication, faster than comprehension. In the depths of 1,000 subjugated star systems, beings who had known nothing but oppression for generations began to raise their heads. Hope, that most dangerous of emotions, started to spread like wildfire across the galactic communication networks that the Indomitable had just laid bare. The Arcani mining colonies, crushed under Zarkov rule for over 2 centuries, received their first unfiltered communication in generations. The quantum transmission carried more than just information. It carried possibility. Grand Admiral Kexler realized the true extent of their defeat in a moment of crystalline clarity. This wasn't just a military loss. This was the complete unraveling of a 1,000-year galactic order. Mobilize everything, he commanded, his voice a mixture of desperation and rising panic. Every remaining resource, every ship, every weapon. The response was immediate and terrifying. Hundreds of capital ships began to converge, a testament to the Zarkov's last, most desperate gamble. If they could not defeat this single vessel, their entire civilization would collapse into cosmic dust. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Alina Rodriguez understood the psychological warfare they were conducting. This wasn't about destroying the Zarkov. This was about liberating an entire galaxy. Quantum communication protocols are showing exponential spread. Lieutenant Camille Chen reported, "We're not just disrupting Zarkov systems. We're providing communication tools to every subjugated species in their territory." The ship's quantum AI worked with a precision that bordered on the miraculous. Each transmission was a carefully crafted message of hope, of potential, of liberation. Technical blueprints, defense system specifications, communication protocols that had been suppressed for generations. In the Korvax agricultural worlds, entire populations began to understand the true extent of their technological suppression. The communications revealed centuries of deliberate technological limitation, a systematic approach to keeping subjugated species perpetually dependent. Commander Sarah Alvarez tracked the cascading effect with a mixture of scientific fascination and human empathy. "We're seeing spontaneous technological uprising in multiple sectors," she announced. "The information we've released is acting like a catalyst." The Zarkov had never understood a fundamental truth about technological power. Information wasn't a weapon to be controlled. It was a living thing that wanted to be free. Massive Zarkov fleet formations began to disintegrate from within, not through direct combat, but through a more insidious process. Crews began to question. Communication channels became conduits of doubt. The most sophisticated military machine in galactic history was being unmade by something far more powerful than weapons. Understanding. "Incoming mass fleet convergence," Chen called out. "They're throwing everything they have at us." Captain Rodriguez allowed herself the briefest of smiles. "Let them come." The space around the Indomitable began to fill with thousands of Zarkov vessels, a final desperate attempt to maintain their galactic hegemony. Each ship represented centuries of technological development. Each vessel was a testament to a civilization that had never known defeat. They were about to learn the true meaning of futility. The quantum symphony was about to reach its crescendo, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Systematic, precise, merciless. The Indomitable began its surgical dismantling of the Zarkov military infrastructure with the cold efficiency of a quantum scalpel. Star systems that had stood as impenetrable fortresses for centuries began to collapse from within, their most advanced defensive platforms transforming into nothing more than expensive monuments to a dying civilization. Quantum infiltration at critical mass. Lieutenant Camille Chen reported, his neural interfaces pulsing with streams of data that would have overwhelmed any standard human mind. We're not just breaking their systems, we're rewriting the fundamental operational logic of their entire civilization. Entire planetary defense networks went dark. Communication relays became conduits of confusion. Military command structures dissolved like acid-eaten paper. In the central control hub of the Zarkov primary defense grid, Systems Administrator Vernak watched in horror as centuries of technological supremacy crumbled in real time. Defensive platforms designed to withstand direct antimatter bombardment simply stopped functioning. Not destroyed, not disabled, simply rendered irrelevant with mathematical precision. Captain Elena Rodriguez understood the deeper strategy. This wasn't about destruction. This was about demonstrating the fundamental fragility of technological oppression. Begin comprehensive systems deconstruction, she commanded. Prepare communication protocols for liberation. The ship's quantum AI worked with a complexity that defied conventional understanding. Each system became a living puzzle, each defensive protocol a challenge to be understood and transformed. Where the Zarkov saw firewalls, the Indomitable saw opportunities for communication. Classified military research facilities found their most guarded secrets becoming public knowledge. Weapon development centers saw their most advanced prototypes rendered obsolete before they could be completed. Entire star systems watched as the technological infrastructure that had kept them subjugated for generations began to dissolve. We're seeing spontaneous technological uprising in multiple sectors, Commander Sarah Alvarez announced. The information cascade is acting like a quantum virus of liberation. Grand Admiral Kixlar could only watch as his civilization, a 1,000-year-old machine of galactic domination, began to come apart at the seams. This wasn't a military defeat. This was a complete philosophical deconstruction of their entire way of existence. The Indomitable moved through space like a quantum ghost, simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. Communication networks that had taken millennia to develop became transparent highways of information. Military strategies that had been closely guarded secrets for generations became open books. Adaptive deconstruction protocols are showing exponential efficiency, Chen continued. We're not just breaking their systems, we're teaching them a new way of existing. Weapon platforms turned themselves off. Defensive shields became permeable. The most sophisticated military technology in galactic history transformed into nothing more than expensive paperweights. Captain Rodriguez watched the tactical display with a calm that bordered on the supernatural. Each moment was a carefully calculated step in a dance of technological liberation. The Zarkov were about to learn a fundamental truth about power. It was never about possession. It was about understanding. The quantum symphony reached its most complex movement. Star systems that had known nothing but oppression for generations began to taste something they had forgotten: freedom. And the Indomitable was just getting started. As the Zarkov Imperium crumbled, something unprecedented happened. The Indomitable began broadcasting on frequencies used by enslaved species, not as a conqueror, not as a savior, but as a partner. On the crystalline world of Korvax Prime, where generations had lived under absolute Zarkov control, the first transmission arrived like a whisper of impossible hope. Technological blueprints, defense system specifications, communication protocols. The ship offered the tools of liberation, not through conquest, but through understanding. Quantum communication matrix is showing unprecedented engagement, Lieutenant Camille Chen reported, his neural interfaces pulsing with a complexity that would have overwhelmed any standard human mind. We're not just providing information. We're creating a collaborative knowledge network. Captain Elena Rodriguez understood this was more than a military campaign. This was a fundamental reimagining of galactic social structures. The Arcani mining colonies, which had endured 2 centuries of technological suppression, received their first unfiltered scientific archives. Generations of scientific research, deliberately withheld by this archive, became freely available. Mathematical models, engineering principles, medical breakthroughs. Knowledge that had been a weapon of control now became a tool of liberation. On 1,000 different worlds, beings who had known nothing but oppression began to understand the true extent of their potential. The ship's quantum AI worked with a precision that bordered on the miraculous. Each transmission was a carefully crafted invitation, not a demand, not a conquest, but a collaboration. We're seeing spontaneous technological development in multiple sectors, Commander Sarah Alvarez announced. The information cascade is acting like a quantum catalyst of innovation. Grand Admiral Solar watched in mounting horror as his civilization's most fundamental control mechanism, the suppression of knowledge, completely collapsed. This wasn't just a military defeat. This was the destruction of their entire philosophical approach to galactic governance. The Indomitable moved through space like a quantum ghost, its very existence a challenge to everything the Zarkov believed about power, control, and technological superiority. On the methane seas of the Verlox colony, underwater research stations that had been isolated for generations suddenly found themselves connected to a galaxy-wide knowledge network. Scientific teams that had been working in complete isolation discovered they were part of something much larger. Collaborative research protocols are showing exponential growth, Chen reported. We're not just sharing information. We're creating a living, breathing knowledge ecosystem. Captain Rodriguez watched the tactical displays with a calm that suggested she was witnessing something far more profound than a military victory. Each transmission was a carefully calculated step in a dance of technological liberation. The most sophisticated oppression system in galactic history was being unmade by something far more powerful than weapons. Understanding. Technological blueprints became open-source collaborations. Defense systems transformed from tools of control to shared protective technologies. Communication protocols that had been closely guarded secrets became universal languages of cooperation. The quantum AI aboard the Indomitable was doing something unprecedented. It wasn't just breaking down an oppressive system. It was showing 1,000 different species a new way of existing, a way where knowledge was not a weapon, where information was not a tool of control, but a bridge between civilizations. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The Indomitable returned to human space, but it was no longer just a ship. It had become a legend, a symbol, a promise. The journey home was unlike any mission in human history. Dozens of liberated species followed in a makeshift convoy, their vessels a testament to newly discovered potential. What had begun as a single ship's mission had transformed into a galaxy-wide renaissance of technological and social possibility. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge, her augmented eye scanning the vast space around them. The prosthetic that had once been a reminder of loss now symbolized something else entirely: human adaptability, human potential. Quantum data compilation is complete, Lieutenant Camille Chen reported, his neural interfaces pulsing with petabytes of collected information. We've gathered more scientific and cultural data in this single mission than humanity collected in its entire previous history. Commander Sarah Alvarez approached with a data tablet, her movements deliberate. Initial analysis suggests we've liberated over 237 distinct species. The technological and cultural exchange is already showing unprecedented rates of collaborative development. The ship's quantum AI had become more than a computational system. It was a living repository of galactic knowledge, a bridge between civilizations that had known nothing but conflict for millennia. Humanity looked to the stars not with fear, but with a newfound understanding. They were not just survivors. They were architects of a new galactic order. In the research labs beneath the Ends, the same facility where the Indomitable had been conceived, Scientists were already analyzing the vast troves of information. Medical breakthroughs from a dozen different species were being integrated. Engineering principles that had been hidden for centuries were now open-source collaborations. The Zarkov believed technology was a weapon of control. Captain Rodriguez reflected, her voice carrying the weight of historical significance. We've shown it can be a bridge of understanding. The liberated species that followed the Indomitable represented more than a military convoy. They were a living testament to the power of shared knowledge. Arcani mining vessels flew alongside Furlock's research platforms. Korvac's agricultural ships moved in formation with human exploration vessels. Grand Admiral Kixlar, the last surviving high-ranking Zarkov official, had been given sanctuary. Not as a prisoner, but as a witness. A living reminder of a system that had finally been dismantled. "We're not conquerors," Rodriguez told him during their final conversation. "We're partners in a larger understanding." The quantum AI aboard the Indomitable continued its work, not as a weapon of war, but as a living network of collaborative knowledge. Each transmission, each shared protocol was a step towards a different kind of galactic civilization. Humanity had entered the conflict as a species fighting for survival. They emerged as something else entirely. Architects of possibility. Builders of bridges. The true potential of a civilization was not measured by its ability to destroy, but by its capacity to understand. The journey was over. The real work was just beginning. As the Indomitable approached Earth, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. A new constellation was being born, not of celestial bodies, but of shared hope, shared knowledge, shared potential. And humanity had only just begun to explore what that might mean.